about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I'm in a pretty grumpy mood. So I just spent $100. $100. Not on buying gifts, just the wrapping paper. To get enough wrapping paper for the gifts I want to give, I had to spend, not even starting to spend on gifts, $100 for wrapping paper. And how much wrapping paper did I get? I guess we'll see. You know, the picture looked like a big, juicy roll, but I get it in the, when I get the wrapping paper that I order from Amazon, sometimes it's like a roll this size. And I know I should know my feet and my metrics. I tried to get the jumbo roll. I tried to type and populate jumbo roll. But I noticed that, it was like $1.45 a square foot or 45 cents a square foot. I tried to find some 11 cents a square foot wrapping paper, but it's ugly. And why are we doing this? In fact, a few weeks ago, I was at a store getting a gift, going, okay, I need to get wrapping paper. And I went to look at the wrapping paper, and it was like $10, $15 for some real skinny rolls that would only cover one gift. So then I'm like, well, let me look at those wrapping bags. And to get a bag, $12.99. A big bag for $12.99. Okay, first of all, I'm paying already overpriced for the gift. Then I'm paying tax or shipping or whatever else I'm doing. On top of that, I got to spend that much money just to cover it up. So let's talk about some alternatives to wrapping gifts. What I used to use was foil. Now, I like chrome. Okay, I really am into that foil shiny color. The problem is foil isn't like it used to be, and it rips easily, and now foil's getting expensive. And I guess you could use a brown paper bag, but those could be pretty ugly. So what are some alternatives that you could do? Now, I remember one of my friends told me that she wraps things up in pillowcases and then puts a big bow on it. And I was like, okay, wait a second here. That could work where you put the gift in a pillowcase, because I got to tell you, I could always use pillowcases because my cats sneeze on mine, or, I could always use pillowcases. The problem is that I went to look up pillowcases. Pillowcases are now getting expensive. Well, another thing you could do are towels. Guys, look, I'm sorry. I did not want to spend $12.99 just to wrap one gift, okay? But look at this. There are some really cool towels. So my son's girlfriend's mom got us some Easter towels. I use them. They're towels for Easter. But they're so cute with bunny rabbits and things like that. And I'm like, that would be awesome. I'm not going to use those because I want to use them for towels. But where you take the towel and you wrap up the gift and then you put a bow, and so you could use a towel. Some people say they could use magazines. I don't know if magazines, I understand it's like an 8x11. I don't think that's enough, and people now do digital. Newspapers. I remember, gift wrapping with some newspaper. It was paper. The only thing is you got the ink, and people don't have newspaper anymore. But, newspaper used to work. That's, yeah. So let me see what other suggestions we have online. This is a good one. A scarf. Now, this is interesting. Okay, scarves can be pretty expensive. But I have so many. I used to buy shirts at Ross, and they would come with like a scarf or something on it. I'm like, I don't wear scarves. This isn't the 70s or ascots or whatever. And I'm like, but you know what? If I had to wrap something, like a little perfume thing, I could put in a scarf and then put a little bow on there. And so if you have old scarves, a bra, wrap something up in a bra. Yeah. But an old scarf might actually work. Now some of you say, well, what? So now we go into the closet? Well, think about it. Okay. I'm losing a little bit of weight, so maybe I don't need some of my fat clothes. Well, a T-shirt that I don't use, you could actually cut the fat. If you're going to throw that out, or if you are going to be too lazy to not donate it, then why don't you take that T-shirt, cut it out, and you could use that also to wrap gifts. Now, in our family, we got to the point where when we ran out of the wrapping paper, my husband just used the Best Buy bag, saying, "Look, I just got this. Do you want me to wrap it or no?" And the kids are like, "No, just give it." And then they opened up the Best Buy bag and they had their new game or whatever. So, but here's the thing. I love Christmas trees. We have like a big menorah, and we have then the skirt for the trees, kind of like, I use a blue and silver tree skirt, and then we put the gifts. So I do want to have that where you walk in and you see all the gifts and all that. And so wrapping paper is a part of that. But these companies know that they could screw you on that. And so we got to find another way. Luckily for me, I don't know. I think I'm going to go back to foil. I could get one of these big, huge restaurant industrial foil. It rips and tears easily. But don't get me started on Scotch tape. One of the suggestions online is an old map. Now, I like collecting maps, so I don't know if I would necessarily get rid of it. But if you have like an old map that, of Clark County that you don't really care about, you could use that. Maps make good wrapping paper. But what is wrapping paper? It's paper. And sometimes it's a little shiny. So grab some glitter, get some nail polish or something, and then just decorate it. You can put stickers all over it. Honestly, if you have a brown paper bag, use that and just decorate it with stickers. It's not that big a deal. Or you could just give gift cards. That's what I'm starting to do, so I don't have to buy the wrapping paper. Other options they suggest are jars. Oh, that's interesting. Where you put something in a cute little jar, because I could always use jars. Mugs. Remember I told you a really great gift for somebody, if you don't want to spend a lot of money and they like coffee, is get a really nice coffee mug and throw some, biscottis or whatever coffee drinkers use, spoons, cute straws, whatever the hell, and decorate it with some candy. Then take some serif, the clear wrapping thingy that you don't have to hopefully buy for $100. Wrap it up. You know what? I'm going to go to Michael's or Hobby Lobby and pick up some of this stuff. I'll probably spend hundreds of dollars trying to find ways to not spend on gift wrap. But gift wrap's too expensive. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So there has been a lot of discussion that the State Department is going to now make it stricter for immigrants to come to the United States if they have medical conditions. And you're seeing headlines all over the place saying that obese immigrants will be denied entry. And so let's actually take a look at what's going on. People always ask, what are we screening immigrants for? Well, if they go through the actual process and they don't, sneak in illegally or come across a wall or, use use a mule to get them across, or, if they go through the proper channels, they do get a pretty rigorous exam. They're screened for tuberculosis, which they need to be. They're screened for syphilis. I think they're also screened for gonorrhea. They have to go through a pretty thorough exam. And then also the doctor will deny them if they think they have a serious mental health condition that could put people at risk. So we do have, I remember, the Ellis Island, I don't remember the Ellis Island days, but learning about the Ellis Island days, they were looking for particular things that could, trachoma and other things that could unfortunately cause that immigrant to either spread it to other people or become so ill that the government would have to take care of them somehow. And so rigorous medical screenings have always been a part of most countries' immigration policies. But things are a little different because we had many people come across that might not have ever gotten the, either thorough exam or, been told, look, these are things that you need to take care of. And this issue has come up because we've had hospitals like Denver Health, Yuma Hospital, and other hospitals that are overwhelmed with migrants. And many of them can't pay, that they need money to get them out of trouble so that they could take care of these individuals. Meanwhile, many citizens are going, well, when do I get a hospital bed? And so it's a topic that, as much as me in medicine wants to say, look, I'm going to take care of everybody. I don't care what your status is. We don't discriminate. We're just going to take care of you. When the hospital is overwhelmed and they're going under, where do we take care of them? So there's going to be a reevaluation. This wouldn't be if we didn't have all the numbers, because everybody and their mother wants to come to America. There's high demand. And so now how do we triage? Now, I know the Trump administration wants to invite some of the brightest minds in the world, so, people that'll help America get better. But we have a lot of people that are fleeing and escaping, horrific conditions. What do we do if they're not healthy? Who pays for that? Do we have the money? Now, I think we all could agree if there's a sick kid, we want to take care of them. But what if we have 5 million sick adults coming to our country? How do we have the money for that? And how do we take care of them when we're not even taking care of our homeless and our VA system is struggling? Somebody's going to say, whoa, wait a second. Why aren't we taking care of our own first? So the topic has come up. And so where these headlines are coming from is the State Department is looking at the money we're spending, who's coming in, and what we are able to realistically care for with our current hospital infrastructure. So according to KFF Health News with the Kaiser Family Foundation, they are looking at if they are looking at the health of potential immigrants. Already they're being screened for tuberculosis, vaccine history is being looked at, et cetera, mental conditions. But they want to look at also, according to a new cable from the State Department, the cable says you must consider an applicant's health, certain medical conditions, including but not limited to cardiovascular diseases, respiratory diseases, so heart or lung diseases, cancer, diabetes, metabolic diseases, neurological diseases, and mental health conditions can require hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of care. The cable also encourages visa officers to consider other conditions like obesity. They say obesity can cause asthma, sleep apnea, high blood pressure, and they should assess if that immigrant could become a public charge and therefore should be denied entry into the United States. The cable reads, all of these can require expensive long-term care. Now, the visa officers are the ones who decide if you're going to get the visa or not. Metabolic disorders. There's a lot of different things that are metabolic disorders. Thyroid conditions, diabetes, obesity, Cushing's syndrome, adrenal insufficiency. There's a lot of things that fall under metabolic diseases. And so they're right and wrong. They're right in that, it costs money. All right. I mean, you have somebody that ends up getting diabetes or high cholesterol or, with obesity, they could end up, having issues with their joints and then needing joint replacements. It's expensive, but they're wrong in that only obese people can drain the system. Skinny people can too. You have thin diabetics. You have thin people with spinal stenosis. You have thin individuals that get cancer. And so to screen based on obesity is going to be difficult because your skinny people can have, also some pretty expensive pathology. So what does the current medical exam form look like? I'll post this so you guys can take a look at it. Let me see. I'm having issues with my computer really stinks. I'm sorry. I hit the tab, and then I want to give you guys the number of the form. It's called a Form 1693. So they ask for their sex, their village of birth, or where they're from, etc. And there's a portion for the civil surgeon to fill out the the facility, etc. And then the civil surgeon gives their assessment, and they do a worksheet on tuberculosis. They do the initial screening test. There's blood tests. There's chest X-rays. Keep in mind, many people from other countries are vaccinated for tuberculosis. So if you do the TB time test, they'll be positive. So we do more specific ways to test them to see if they have tuberculosis. And many of them may require chest X-rays. I agree with that. This is something that's been done for years. We don't want to bring tuberculosis into our country. And if somebody does have tuberculosis, that could be a lot to deal with. And so we want to know ahead of time, isolate them, and get them treated. Syphilis is also being screened for anybody 18 to 44 years old. Gonorrhea. All applicants 18 to 24 are being screened for gonorrhea. I'm surprised it's not also gonorrhea and chlamydia, but they are doing screening for gonorrhea and chlamydia. You could do that through a urine test. And then also Hansen's disease, leprosy, still screening for leprosy. And then they go through their physical exam findings. Is there a class A or B physical or mental disorder? Do they have a physical mental disorder with associated harmful behavior? Do they have a history of associated harmful behavior? If they have a physical mental disorder without associated harmful behavior, and then do they have a history of associated harmful behavior unlikely to recur? Now, a doctor has to make the decision that if you beat somebody up, that you're not going to do that again. I mean, we're talking about obesity in the news, but I mean, there's a lot of different things that can, be screened for, or that is being screened for. I mean, if you ever got into a fight and were violent, does America want you or not? I mean, average person gets into fights, and then is somebody saying no to everything? No, I've never been diagnosed. I don't go to the doctor. Well, then how do we know? So these civil surgeons have to do a very, very thorough exam in such a very short period of time to decide if you coming into this country is going to be safe. Now, many people look at a lot of the criminals that are now being evicted, being deported. How did they get in? It would be interesting. I'd like to know some of these criminals and these people who raped and murdered when they came to America, if they went through the legal process and what the civil surgeon report said, or were they individuals that just snuck in and never got the exam? So I'd like a study done on that to see exactly what happened. And if we are noticing that some of these people who committed crimes in America got through, then we need to figure out a better way to screen. But I mean, this is such a big topic for such a small segment. But, you know, to screen for obesity and medical issues due to cost, that's going to be an issue until we get a better medical infrastructure. So I don't know what the answer is. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away. Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. All right, so are doing Facebook Live. So I apologize for those of you that I still can't access it. We are going to try to figure out how to. It just honestly, it really just takes me putting the time in, and I really, really apologize. I want to make people who are not on Facebook, and I understand why a lot of people are not on Facebook. I want to make sure you guys do have access to our videos. So we're working on that. And then once I get that, like either I'll have them on YouTube or Rumble. And I'm having issues getting onto Rumble. Every time I try to get onto Rumble, I get this error thing. And I don't understand. It's like Rumble doesn't want me. Maybe they don't want my videos. They saw how I looked and they were like, we'll pass. So we're working on that. But again, radio, you're not supposed to see me. You don't want to see me. I just listen to my voice. But for those of you who see me, yeah, you see me. All right. So we're hearing that there's a lot of infighting among Democrats. And because many Democrats were actually against the shutdown. They wanted to sign the CR. But they were so afraid of upsetting not their base, because most of their voters didn't want the shutdown. They didn't want the airlines and federal workers not getting paid. They didn't want all this chaos, but they were afraid of Chuck Schumer, the progressive wing, certain Democrats that they think could just do them in at the next primary or at the next election. And so politics should never be like that. You should have a home based on where you're from. That's your home. That's why kudos to Ocasio-Cortez in Nevada, Catherine Ocasio-Cortez and John Fetterman, who listened to their constituents and voted the way they were supposed to with their constituents, saying, no, we're not going to close down the government for this. Obamacare needs a overhaul. We're going to work on that, but we don't need to screw over our military. We don't have to screw over our TSA agents. We're going to make sure that America doesn't suffer. Well, finally, you had 8 Democrats, one of whom was actually independent, that voted with the Democrats to finally sign the damn CR so we could move forward, even though just because the legislature, the CR finally got signed because we went through the shutdown, it's going to be months to recuperate. And now we're all going to see higher flight prices. And I mean, this was just a cluster and a seventh, not to mention all the businesses relying on people getting paid, not getting paid. So now their sales slumps went down. So it was a trickle effect that for every week of a COVID lockdown or government shutdown, it takes at least a month to recover. So it's going to be a good few months to recover from this, if at bare minimum. But you're now seeing within the Democratic Party, and I'm even, hearing from Democratic friends and family going, look, I don't want to leave the Democratic Party, but if the Democratic Party leaves me, what do I do? And so will the Democrats shift into two parties where you have the more socialist, Mamdani, Ocasio-Cortez, Bernie Sanders thinking, and then the more moderate, the John Fetterman, the Janine Sheehan, Ocasio-Cortez. You have the more moderate Democrats. And Democrats, they've shifted, just like Republicans have shifted in their thinking. I mean, the Kennedy Democrat was different from the Clinton Democrat, was different from the Biden Democrat. The party will shift, but there's actually such a divide in thinking now that some of the Democrats are wondering, how do we keep our party whole? So, for example, how do you within the Democratic Party be split on women's sports? Do you support women being able to excel and not compete against a biological male or have to share a locker room or shower with them? Or do you support the transgender female who was born biological male and support their rights? And so a lot of Democrats are like, but wait a second here. Okay, all these decades we supported women in sports. Now women are telling me they don't like this, but this is what the Democratic Party stands for. So which side am I on? And so a lot of Democrats are wondering, do they find a home then with the Republicans? Now, the Republicans might seem like they're pretty, more chill in terms of not canceling you. Now, because right now you don't really see a lot in the media where if you don't think with us, if you're not with us, you're against us. You're not. However, there are still extremes that people don't want to necessarily be associated with that. You have a lot of individuals who are pro-choice. You have a lot of individuals who are pro-life. You have people who are, let's just keep the government out of it. And so that's another big shift. The Democratic Party was always about keep the government out of abortion. We do not want the government in abortion. The government should never tell us what a woman can or cannot do with their body. So the Supreme Court just did that. The Supreme Court said, the feds are out. The feds are not allowed to, based on the Constitution, there is nothing written that the feds can prevent an abortion or honor it. The feds are out. But then you have individuals going, but wait a second. So is that good or bad? Does that help the cause or not? Because Roe v. Wade was overturned. So there's a lot of confusion. And so, I, as an American, I don't want chaos. I don't want divides. We could very easily turn into another country where you have the Socialist Party, you have the Liberal Party, you have the or Labor Party or whatever, or you have the Conservative Party, you have the ultra conservative, you have the religious party, you have and then you form coalitions, and I kind of like how things are a little bit more simplified. But what we're hearing is that the current state of politics is not sustainable. So Democrats were really torn by, do we support Zohran Mamdani or not? And many people did not want the Democratic Party being now a socialist party. Well, if the majority of Democrats become socialists, it will. But if the majority of Democrats are moderate, going, no, that's not what we want, do the socialists need to form their own party? Does the very, very left or progressive wing need to be their own? I mean, there's a lot of individuals who really like what Mamdani has to say. That is right up their alley. However, Mamdani did not necessarily call out, the globalizing the Intifada, did not speak out to and try and assist to get the hostages out, seemed to have more anti-Semitic sentiment than any other mayor we've seen in New York City. And there's many Democrats who go, but no, I can't stand next to him. No, because we're also the party that is supposed to be in support of Jews and, anti-Semitism. And Mamdani, I think, is starting to, back off from some of his rhetoric. He's trying to be less anti-police. He's going to meet with Commissioner Tisch and try to mend those wounds, before he takes office. But many Democrats are like, look, we do support police. Many Democrats have a lot of common sense. I mean, they know who the bad guy was when Hamas came in and murdered a bunch of Israelis and raped them and took hostages and raped and tortured them. I mean that was kind of obvious. And so what do the Democrats do? Because they don't want to be necessarily aligned with Mamdani or Ocasio-Cortez. And here's the thing, if there's a socialist party, all the power to them. I mean, America is about having a plethora of ideas. And, Mamdani won the New York City election. If that's what the majority of voters want in New York City, then this is America. They get who they wanted. That's the American Democratic way. It's just, it wasn't representative of all of New York because I think only 1/8 voted. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Democratic Party. And I don't know, maybe they will split. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So I like meat. I really like meat. I like red meat, steak. I like my steak medium, sometimes medium rare if I think they're going to mess it up. But if they don't mess it up, medium is just perfect. So succulent. A little bit of pink in the middle, juicy. I don't like well done. It comes out too dry. Rare, it's too chewy and raw. I like steak. I like it a lot. So one thing that I am extremely fearful of is developing an allergy to meat, such as what you could get if you get bit by the Lone Star tick. We've talked about this, a meat allergy. And now another individual has died from developing alpha-gal syndrome, which is a meat allergy triggered by these tick bites. He was a relatively healthy New Jersey man. He ate some meat. It's a case study published in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology in Practice. And he apparently might have been bit by the Lone Star tick. It sensitized people to alpha-gal. Alpha-gal is a sugar found in mammalian meat like beef, lamb, and pork. People who have alpha-gal syndrome can get a rash, nausea, vomiting after eating meat. Then they could go into a deadly anaphylaxis. I don't know how many people have died in America from this, but this is something that kind of makes us fearful because we have a very, very high amount of meat in our diet. University of Minnesota is reporting on this case. The man's name has not been released, but he was only 47 years old. He did not know that tick bites had triggered this allergy to meat. Last summer, he became severely ill 3 hours after eating steak during a camping trip. 2 weeks later, he was found dead after eating a hamburger at a barbecue. The cause of death was ruled sudden, unexplained death. The autopsy was inconclusive. Now, Dr. Thomas Platts Mills, former chief of UVA's Health Division of Asthma, Allergy, and Clinical Immunology, and first author of the PACE report, looked at the autopsy report and then identified, he was one of the ones who identified alpha-gal syndrome back in 2007. He is considered the foremost expert on this allergy. Looking at post-mortem blood samples, he found that the man had been sensitized to alpha-gal, probably finding the antibodies. Then he believes that he had an extreme reaction. Now, I know many of us are thinking, well, wait a second. All right, if I have eaten meat my whole life, I'm good. I'm in the clear. I'd like to say you're in the clear. I'd like to say I'm in the clear. But when you become allergic to something, it's the subsequent exposures that get bad. So I've been stung by one bee, and thank God nothing happened. But usually the first bee sting isn't when you could get anaphylaxis if you're allergic. It's the subsequent ones. So being that he got sick during the camping trip, but then 3 weeks later he died, suggests that the allergy response got worse as time progressed and as future exposures happened. Now, Dr. Platts Mills told CIDRAP News that the man's tryptase level, a marker for mast cell activation and allergic reactions, was 2,000 milligrams per milliliter. The highest tryptase level that he has ever seen, and this is the doctor who was the expert on it, was 90. So seeing the number at 2,000 suggests that that's probably how he died. Now, the man's wife reported that he didn't have any known tick bites, but he did have 12 to 13 sugar bites around his ankles the summer he became ill. Now, Dr. Platts Mills said many sugar bites in the eastern United States are actually bites from the Lone Star tick larvae. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, maybe sugars are spreading it. He doesn't think so. He thinks these were Lone Star tick bites. So he says it is important that both doctors and patients who live in an area of the country where Lone Star ticks are common should be aware of the risk of sensitization, more specifically if they have unexpected episodes of severe abdominal pain occurring several hours after eating mammalian meat. They should be investigated for possible sensitization to the oligosaccharide alpha-gal. According to CDC, nearly 450,000 people may be affected in the United States. The number could be higher. They say most cases of alpha-gal are diagnosed on the East Coast, but they have seen it as far inland as Indiana. And then being the Lone Star tick, people think, are there also cases in Texas? I don't have a lot of that data. And we don't know how many people could have been because the average person does not go and get tested for this. We don't think about it until somebody dies or has a severe allergy. Now, for those of you who say, gosh, I get bad allergies and I don't know why, ask them to test you for this. Because if you had meat, pork, lamb, beef, recently, that can, unfortunately cause something like this. That'll happen. Now, I know I talk about eating a lot of meat. I don't eat a lot of it. I like it. But we really do need to limit our meat intake. And we should have for lunch a salad. This is something that dudes, and I have a lot of guy friends, they don't eat a salad. I mean, they'll eat some vegetables. They'll get vegetables in. But they will not make their meal a salad. Like, I need some meat. I need to use a fork and a knife for every meal. And I get it. People, salads can be very filling. But if you think about it, I remember it even happened to me. I was like, I'm not too hungry. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon. And I go, man, what did I have for lunch? It filled me up. Well, I had a salad. And then as soon as I thought of that, boom, I started feeling hungry. Really? There's a difference between hunger and appetite, and a lot of times can't tell the difference. But then I couldn't stop thinking. I'm like, I need something. So there was some chicken in the fridge, so I grabbed, a piece of cold chicken just to feel like I got meat in me. Yeah, and listen, one of the reasons why we have now gone the other way with meat is one is it's been more plentiful, and they've been able to genetically manipulate these animals to have more muscle, have more meat. I mean, look at our fruits. Grapes are the size of plums these days. It's pretty scary. There's also weird shaped grapes. There was a grape that was like this big oval, like Mr. Potato Head shape. And I'm like, what? Why are grapes looking like that? But anyway, so they've been able to kind of manipulate our food to make it bigger and feed more and give you more meat. But also, many of us are trying to eat less carbs. And for me, I feel less hungry and I eat less carbs if I have meat. So like the other night, my meal was some chicken and steak. I got these little bits and I had it in spinach. So it was a low carb meal and I was full. But I wouldn't just eat a bowl of spinach. I wanted some meat in there. So a lot of us have been going to meat, especially since the 90s with the Atkins diet, the South Beach diet, to try to make us feel more full. But you don't have to have a lot of meat to make you feel full. If you want to feel full, first, drink a glass of water before you start eating. You don't have to down it, but drink a full glass of water. Then wait 10, 15 minutes. And then start eating your vegetables. After you finish your vegetables, wait another 15 minutes. Then you could go for your meat entree. And usually by then, you're going to start being full. Do not watch TV when you eat. Yeah, I watch a lot of sports. I really am just now getting into a lot of the basketball. And, so I'm watching that, and then they know exactly, commercial time, you start seeing these big cheeseburgers. Oh, that commercial for Arby's where they have chunks of steak. And I look at that going, I want that. And so you got to limit the ads. You can't be watching that. Yeah, and whenever you do get hungry, drink some water. Yeah, or get up and exercise. When you get up and exercise, that also helps with your appetite. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOCDALI. So this headline has been kind of raising a lot of eyebrows. This happened in the UK. And the headline from the BBC News is, hospitals knew a heart device led to more patients' deaths, but they kept using it. Now, according to BBC, dozens of patients were put at risk after two of the UK's leading transplant centers continued fitting a heart device despite knowing that it had a higher mortality rate than its rival product. Concerns were raised by the NHS, their socialized medicine system, about the device back in 2018. Of the patients who were subsequently fitted with this mechanical pump for their heart, half went on to die within 3 years. The mother of Greg Marshall, one of the patients who received the device, had concerns and said, and Greg Marshall is one of the victims, one of the patients who ended up dying. She said she was disgusted and appalled. And the BBC has also learned that leading cardiologists at both hospitals were paid consultants for the device's manufacturer, and the hospitals were aware of this. You have to disclose if you do get paid by a pharmaceutical company. They need to be aware of any conflicts of interest. Both hospitals, the Freeman in Newcastle and Harefield in London, continued to use the pump for years and questioned the reliability of the data flagged by the NHS. Now, for people thinking, well, wait a second, is this used in America? We don't believe so, because Medtronic eventually did withdraw the pump based on safety grounds. Now, this left ventricular assist device is a machine we use for those individuals who really need a heart transplant. But we're waiting for a heart. The transplant list is sometimes years long. So they fit them with a machine to help pump blood around the body. And sometimes it's their only chance of survival until a transplant becomes available. The device is implanted into the heart. There's an external wire that comes out, usually at the abdomen. It connects to controller and external batteries. And we have been using these LVADs for decades. And now the hospitals had a choice of two devices, according to BBC News. The HeartWave HVAD, sold by the Irish-American company Medtronic, and the HeartMate 3, sold by U.S. manufacturer Abbott. In October 2018, the NHS Blood and Transplant Division, which oversees transplants in the UK, conducted a preliminary audit comparing how the two pumps had performed. A more detailed analysis followed the following year, and the results were stark. Of the 119 who received the Medtronic device, 45% or 54 of the patients died within 2 years. However, when they looked at the Abbott pump, just 15%, 15 out of 97 died. Because I know people are going, but Dr. Dahlia, these are individuals that had a bad heart, were going to die anyway. How did they know they didn't die because of their heart condition, but because of the pump? You can't say 100%. You're right about that. But if you look at studies of similar conditions, of people with similar heart issues, and then you compare the people who had one device versus the other, this is some pretty damning evidence. But it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, the pumps necessarily caused them to die. It just, was there a better option, or something that could have been potentially a better option? Now, another thing that hurts the Medtronic device was the study found that there were more complications, strokes, or needing a new pump. Now, the audit said there were no significant differences between the types of patients who received each device. Because somebody would be saying, well, what if somebody had coronary artery disease, but somebody had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy? You know, these patients had no significant differences. So now, you know, we look at, well, wait a second. Why did some of the, you know, transplant centers continue using it? One of them, the Royal Papworth Hospital, dropped it. They didn't even wait for the study. They didn't like it. The other clinicians, their clinicians thought the HeartMate 3 was superior, so they just went with that. But Harefield Hospital continued to use it. The Freeman Hospital continued to use it also, way into 2021. And that's when the manufacturer withdrew it. So, you know, people ask, you know, how does this happen? You know, why aren't, you know, patients aware? This is something RFK Jr. wanted to do on the HHS website, where you're able to look things up. I mean, it takes a long time to set that up, where you could look up what medicine, what vaccine, what procedure, and look at the studies yourself. Now, they have to be very careful, because you put up, you know, one study and not another, you know, it looks like you're being biased. But many patients, especially with a weak heart, at death's door, aren't going to sit there and do all the Google searching. I mean, they're going to be trusting their doctors. And their doctors are supposed to be using the device that they feel is the best. Now, people ask, why do doctors let themselves get manipulated by these companies? Is it the money? See, I've turned pharmaceutical companies down a lot. I could be a lot richer. But I do not want my name, and my brand is so important to me, and my patients and their health, that I don't want to, you know, feel like I am selling out. I want to know I'm giving them the best advice. You know, Merck would come into my office. I really like the Merck reps, but this one rep was pushing Vioxx and was upset with me, saying, you're not, because his sales numbers probably were down. And he was grumpy with me, saying, why aren't you writing Vioxx? And I had told him, look, I'm seeing with my patients their blood pressure going up. I can't safely and ethically use that. No, the studies show I will give you any study you need. It's not the drug. Thank you for that. But I'm going to pass on using the drug. And I remember they were not happy with me. Well, within a year or two, that drug actually was taken off the market. Why? Because of heart-related complications. Our job as doctors are supposed to, look at what helps their patients the most. Now, most pharmaceutical companies don't want to look like they're pushing something that doesn't work. Okay? These pharmaceutical companies understand there's a lot of liability. So they do ask, look, if you're seeing any complications or any issues, let us know so we could tell, the manufacturer, we could tell the pharmaceutical company, let us share that information. But what happened here in these hospitals, just unthinkable and unfathomable. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hi, guys. Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So every year this debate ensues, and I have to put this to rest every year. And it doesn't go to rest because every year we bring it up again, or somebody's bringing it up again. But is Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? Okay. And many people get mad at me for saying, well, of course it is. I'm not saying yes, maybe. Abso-flippin'-lutely, it's a Christmas movie. Now, what makes a Christmas movie? And this is my favorite time of year. And you're already starting to see, Christmas Vacation was on. You're starting to see the Christmas movies play. I live in Southern Nevada. And one of the radio stations always plays Christmas music. They started playing Christmas music right after Halloween because they get great ratings. They get good advertisers. So we're already into the Christmas season, and we haven't even celebrated Thanksgiving. It even started before Veterans Day. And I put up my Christmas lights on Veterans Day because I wanted to, get a head start on that. And now everybody else has put up their lights. So I love celebrating. I love watching Christmas movies. I watched a little bit of Christmas Vacation last night because it was on. But what makes a Christmas movie? So to me, the ingredients of a Christmas movie is one, family. All these Christmas movies, it has to do with family, whether it's Home Alone, whether it's, Miracle on 34th Street, What's a Wonderful Life. All these Christmas movies, there has to be something about family. There also has to be Christmas music, right? There's Christmas music or songs. There's a Christmas tree. in the movie. There has to be a Christmas tree. Buddy the Elf, big Christmas tree, family. There has to be music, a Christmas song. All right. In all of these Christmas movies, there's a Christmas song. They're singing, like in Buddy the Elf, they were singing. And so that's, I think, a guaranteed. There is always a conflict in a Christmas movie that either has to do with getting back to family or doing something for your family. I think Sinbad was in a movie where he was trying to get a gift for his kid. So again, there's always that. There's always an antagonist and a protagonist. Right? You got the main guy just trying to get through and deal with the holidays, and then you have things impeding that, and then the Christmas movie ends where the family is together. There's holiday cheer. They're happy, and they've overcome. And it's a good Christmas. So why would Die Hard qualify? Okay, well, there's a Christmas tree. It's set with the Christmas party, right? His wife, Holly, decked the halls with boughs of holly, right? It is John McClane trying to get home for Christmas. I get the movie came out in June or July, the summer of 1988. I get that it was released then. I get that. However, like Lethal Weapon, there's a Christmas theme. We're going to start watching it around Christmas time. I do. I watch Die Hard every Christmas. So anyway, there's the Christmas party. There's a Christmas tree. Even Hans says ho, ho, ho when he's reading, right, the wrapping paper on one of the victims. There's a gift, right? There's, like the Rolex, there was a gift. Gifts are a part of holiday movies. And in fact, Hans grabbed the gift, and that's how he died, right? So, sorry for the spoiler. If you haven't seen Die Hard, it's almost a 40-year-old movie now. God, can you believe that? 37-year-old movie, Die Hard. One of my favorite movies of all time. You have the Christmas music, you have the songs. The weather outside is frightful. So they have that going on. And you have him trying to get to be with the family and him trying to save his family. And it's about love, family. And I forgot one other thing all these Christmas movies say is Merry Christmas. And they say Merry Christmas in Die Hard. So to me, that's a slam dunk. All right, and I understand people, I do not like that we forget about the religious meanings and the religious implications. Christmas is not just supposed to be about gifts. Okay, it's the birth of Christ. It's a solemn holiday. We're supposed to be in church, and I'm learning a lot about this because our family has both Catholics and Jews, and I love both. To me, our Judeo-Christian values are amazing, and I love having both of that in our family. And so, but if Buddy the Elf is considered a Christmas movie, and why can't Die Hard? Now, the reason why people have a big beef about this is, one, it was released in the summer, and two, there's violence. This bothers people. They say, look, you cannot have Die Hard as a Christmas movie because there's death and violence in there. Well, Home Alone had violence. I mean, Home Alone was a pretty violent movie. All right? Home Alone 2, also pretty violent. So violence can happen. I mean, I was just watching, the Christmas Vacation. I mean, he kept hurting himself. I mean, pretty badly. That's so no, Christmas movies can have violence. I think that's okay. But to me, the most important thing about a Christmas movie is, one, does it make you think about Christmas? Does it make you feel good? Does it make you want to be around your family? Does it make you want to wish somebody Merry Christmas? Does it make you want to sing a Christmas song? Does it make you want to decorate more? To me, Christmas is about, we talk about it. We're going to talk about this again next month, how to talk to your child about Santa. And parents always struggle, when do we tell the kids that Santa isn't real? Never. Santa is real. I'm Jewish, and I've always believed in Santa. I didn't understand how, if I lived in Arizona for part of my life, and so if you didn't have a fireplace, how he would come and bring gifts. I was a little confused about how he could do it all at the stroke of midnight. That is pretty impressive. So that was a little confusing, from a scientific standpoint. But in terms of Santa, when I see a Santa, and I'm talking about one of these real lifelike Santas, I feel really warm inside. I feel good. I don't know if they still do it, but there was a Polar Express. I think they still do it, where we would take our kids on a train. It's in northern Arizona, and sometimes it would snow, so it's really, really nice. And they build this railroad path where you're basically feeling like you're in the North Pole. And while you're on the train, you're on a real train. It's amazing. And you're in your pajamas, and they serve hot cocoa, cookies. They give you little bells, and a Santa is on there. And I got to tell you, that Santa was the most real Santa I have ever seen. And the way he looked at me and winked at me, I mean, I'm a grown up, right? I was like, wow. I was like, I just felt, warm. And I think the reason why is Santa represents your barometer for good and bad. When you start to think, like if a kid's like, I want to screw this kid over, or I want to bully him or whatever, the reason why we have Santa is, well, what would Santa think? Do you want to impress Santa or not? Now, we aren't bowing and praying to Santa. We pray to God. But when a kid's like, wait a second, I don't care what my parents think, but I really kind of care what Santa thinks. And Santa allows them to be a barometer of good and bad. And sometimes when I'm making a decision, would Santa smile at me for this decision? Yeah. And I know people think, well, that's weird, for somebody who grew up Jewish to think like that. But I got to tell you, it's a very simple way to, get back into your lane and, continue down the right road. And Christmas reminds you to be more charitable, to do things that Santa would like you to do. And so, when kids ask, well, is Santa real? You never have to lie. You never have to feel like you have to lie. Now there's degrees of realism. I mean, there's in terms of, is he making it to every single house? Or is Santa infused in everything we do around Christmas? Absolutely. So, you can approach it any way you want, but, how does that movie make you feel? And I watched Die Hard. Now, I understand, Bruce Willis I've had the biggest crush on for years. But when I watch it, I don't go, oh, yeah, he's sexy. Because honestly, he gets all sweaty and, grumpy and bloody in that. But, the idea that, he's getting home to his family on Christmas, he's saving people's lives, he's doing something good. He's also something selfless. Usually in these Christmas movies, you do something selfless. Well, he's putting his life on the line. So, absolutely, 100% Die Hard is a Christmas movie. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So show me the money. That's what people want to know. The shutdown legislatively finally ended because the CR finally got signed by Democratic senators to give them the 60-40 majority rules to get the CR, which was bipartisanly signed and approved before. But legislatively shut down, technically over, government open. But figuratively, or is it really over? No, people still haven't gotten paid. Federal workers are probably going to be all made whole by next Wednesday because it takes time. The government just reopened, and now they got to get the checks. They got to organize all that. You would think they would be ready to go, but if everybody is furloughed, who's there to get everything ready to go? Some air traffic controllers are going to be paid by Sunday just to get them back to work as quickly as possible. But we believe everybody's going to get their money on Wednesday. Now, what about SNAP benefits? Well, according to USDA and USA Today, the SNAP benefits are supposed to, I believe, resuming within 24 hours of the November 12th shutdown date. So most people should have already gotten their SNAP benefits now. If not, you definitely want to reach out to your local agency for that, even though it's government. But the SNAP benefits feed 1 in 8 Americans. I am blown away that 1 in 8 need SNAP benefits. We're supposed to be the richest country in the world, and we have 12% of our population needing government help to eat. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. But households at or below 130% of poverty line qualify for assistance. Many recipients are elderly, disabled, or children. Now, these payments were paused on November 1st because of the shutdown. That should have never happened. The shutdown should have never happened. The CR was never supposed to be used as leverage. The Democrats really messed up with this, caused a lot of infighting, and their constituents are like, what the hell are you guys doing to us? For what cause? Well, Obamacare, healthcare premiums are too high. And yeah, who caused that also? So their messaging, it was really stupid what they did. And then the no kings, it just didn't make sense, especially to people who need their SNAP benefits. So people waiting for their SNAP funds will hopefully get them. Now, what's good is they're getting them before Thanksgiving dinner. So hopefully they could be able to get everything they need for Thanksgiving. We are assuming that the average SNAP benefit card holder is using it for healthy food. Unfortunately, we still have many states that allow the SNAP benefits to go to junk food. I hope that stops and changes where they're getting healthy food. But, for Thanksgiving dinner, hopefully this helps where they'll get their money back on their card and be able to get what they need. Apparently, Thanksgiving dinner is a little cheaper this year. I think it's down 5%. Which is nice. But overall, we still have things that are unfortunately expensive. Beef prices going up. Chicken might start to go up. Eggs might bounce back and go up again. They've been down. Really happy that egg prices went down once Trump came into office. But unfortunately, if the avian flu comes back and bird flu, affects a lot of our poultry, that's going to be a problem. So for those of you that are concerned about, you not getting your benefits, be patient. But if everybody around you is getting them and you're not, you definitely want to, make that known and make sure that you get what was, due to you. It sounds like federal workers all went back. I have a federal worker in my family, went back to work immediately yesterday at 8 a.m. I mean, it was, and everybody was kind of excited and happy. They were kind of, they wanted to get back to work. It was not easy. And so, but when the pay comes, that can be a little tricky. So for those of you who really, really need the money, it might be tight still until next Wednesday. In terms of travel, I've warned you all that the airlines, they had to cancel flights. They had to streamline flights. You lost that choreography and the rhythm that these airlines were working on with this shutdown. So to get that rhythm back and to get the flight crew back and the flights back and staffed and all that is going to be rough. And being that Thanksgiving is a very chaotic travel time, that it's pack your patience. If you didn't have to travel on Thanksgiving, I would recommend you don't. For those of you that maybe want to celebrate Thanksgiving this weekend or next weekend, that might be a nice option. So you don't have to go through the mess of Thanksgiving travel. Everybody thinks that things are going to be back to normal, but they forget Thanksgiving is already chaotic. People are sick. Flight attendants call out sick. Air traffic controllers could still be sick. Air traffic controllers might not come back, especially the ones who were brought back out of retirement. to staff when the new administration came and saw that we didn't have enough air traffic controllers, especially after the Washington Dulles or the Ronald Reagan Airport airplane crash, which was just horrible. Last January. So it's going to be rough. So my recommendation is, if you're planning on that and you're planning on delays and you're planning on cancellations and you're okay with it, that's fine. But if you're falsely thinking that everything is going to be back to normal, I'm telling you right now, plan ahead. Now, one of my listeners had said that the family he is supposed to go to, it's the in-laws, are not thinking anything of an alternative date. They want everybody there because they're worried that a family member is not going to make it the next few years and wants to do a big family picture. I get that. But if you can't make it, you can't make it. And I get that. We once did that. There was some family to do a family picture. So I packed all the clothes for the kids. I got dressed up, everything. And then the picture never happened. They just decided to go and do something else. And I'm like, I thought we were doing a picture for the family member. I was so mad. I honestly, I got to tell you, a lot of my stress comes from family and in-laws and all that. But if you expect that unexpected, if you expect that there is, going to be that, that hiccup, it's not that bad. Well, so I would also, if I were you, and not, this would be a great excuse, to not have to go if you don't want to go. We talk about, how Thanksgiving, the number one thing I get asked as a doctor before Thanksgiving travel is for Xanax. I can't write that online with telemedicine because it's a controlled substance, but the number one prescription people ask for is Xanax because they're going to see the family or the in-laws. And it just blows my mind that something as fun and as amazing as Thanksgiving is such a source of stress. And it's interesting because everybody will say they like the dinner. They like seeing some of the family members and sitting next to some family members. There's always drama. There's always something that happens. And there's got to be a better way to do that. And I don't know what the answer is, because I come from a very dysfunctional family. And sometimes I really want us all in the same room. But most of the time, I'm like, everybody needs to kind of stay away from each other. This is just so bad because it takes us months to recuperate. It's going to take us months to recuperate from the shutdown. Sometimes it takes my family months to recuperate from the family getting together. It shouldn't be like that. But listen, you come first. And, if I had family that was really stressed, saying, we need you here Thanksgiving weekend, and the flights during Thanksgiving Day, this is something I also suggested to my family. I go, why don't you do the travel on Thanksgiving Day or Christmas Day? That's when it's quiet. And so then you'll get there. Yeah, it might be the day. We'll have Thanksgiving dinner on Friday. Or we'll have Christmas dinner the day after. At least we all could travel there safely. Problem is people don't like that. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99-799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
On the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. I want you to lay off the spice. I know that's not something that's very popular now, but after COVID, many of us lost our smell, our taste. Food tasted differently. And we have really started to add more Tabasco, add more spices to our foods. I don't mind if you're trying to minimize salt and sugar, making something a little bit more spicy to give it flavor. But we are seeing an epidemic of gastroesophageal reflux disease. Men and women feeling like they have heartburn, acid indigestion, waking up with a sore throat because of the acid coming up in the middle of the night, chronic pain, burping, poor bowel habits, and unfortunately, people who do have acid reflux are at higher risk of Barrett's esophagus. Barrett's esophagus can be a precursor to esophageal cancer. And esophageal cancer is up to 9 times more common in men. Now, is it because they might eat bigger meals? Is it because they might eat spicier foods? Is it just because of their anatomy? But, you know, I see my boys, they like to do, what was that podcast where the stars would be interviewed while eating hot sauce and tearing up? Yes, Hot Ones, yes. And so my boys will challenge each other, and they'll do that with their friends. And they'll try to get the strongest peppery. So in fact, I think one of them for Christmas bought them a bunch of these hot sauces. It actually was a cool gift. It was a variety of hot sauces that had the Scoville scale, I mean, just through the roof, like with the Carolina Reaper and that kind of stuff in it. And, you know, I bought them a jug of milk, and I was yelling at them, saying, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen them do. And, I mean, they had stomach pain for a week. Listen, I get that it's fun, you know, and funny. Hot Ones it's a fun show to watch, but this isn't the safest and healthiest thing to do. And I am seeing people just buy and ask, you know, because you could get these proton pump inhibitors, these medications over the counter, common heartburn drugs, but many of them are linked to a lot of medical issues. We have seen these proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole, omeprazole. These are things that have been linked to a variety of conditions like diabetes, osteoporosis, dementia, stroke, cancer, heart disease, even migraines. And so, you know, why are you doing it? Why are you eating something spicy or messing with your GI system and then taking drugs that could also make things worse? So as opposed to other, so, you know, people always ask, what's the difference between these medications for heartburn? Well, calcium carbonate neutralizes acid. The carbonate is the basic. And your acid level is very, very strong. I think it's like a pH of 2 in the stomach, and that's because it has to dissolve the food. I mean, the pH of 2, this is really acidic. And so when we feel like we are being exposed too much to the acid, our stomach lining is built for the acid, our esophagus isn't. And so when your lower esophageal sphincter is loose, the acid can splash back from the stomach into the esophagus. The esophagus lining isn't built for that, starts to change. And when acid affects the lining, eventually the body doesn't have the immune mechanisms and the defense mechanisms, and then unfortunately some of the cells are cancerous. So we've been using Rolaids or Tums, which are antacids, acid neutralizers. There's also the H2 blockers like Pepcid and Zantac. Those are histamine H2 antagonists that also help address the high acid. And then you have the PPIs, the proton pump inhibitors, which reduce acid being pumped into the stomach. Excuse me. Now, if you're listening to this, you're like, well, wait a second. If the stomach is supposed to have acid, well, are we hurting ourselves by taking this medication? You are if you have a normally working system that is supposed to be digesting food, but you are overworking it or increasing the acid, then we're trying to minimize and neutralize some of the acid, but it's just a bad situation overall. And so long-term use of these medications have been linked to migraines, heart disease, bone thinning, diabetes, I think even pneumonia, cancer, stroke, dementia. So not good. And also what stinks is, let's say you suffer from a bad headache. I sometimes will go to Excedrin migraine. What does Excedrin migraine have? Aspirin. Does aspirin irritate the stomach? Yes. So if you're taking a proton pump inhibitor, thank God I don't, because I really eat kind of bland. But you take a proton pump inhibitor, and then you get a headache, and then you're reaching for Motrin or ibuprofen or naproxen or Excedrin migraine with aspirin in it, that can affect your stomach even more. In fact, a few years back, AstraZeneca settled a $425 million lawsuit because there were 11,000 claims that Nexium and Prilosec caused a patient's chronic kidney disease. These medications that were only designed for a once-in-a-blue moon sort of thing, people are taking chronically every day. That's a concern. So, when it comes to acid reflux, you might want to first look at the types of foods. Gastroesophageal reflux disease are caused by foods that are difficult to digest. Processed foods, sugars, those with refined carbohydrates, also certain tomato sauces, soda pop, carbonated drinks, coffee, caffeinated beverages, onions, spicy food, chocolate is a biggie. If I ever get acid reflux, it's because I had chocolate. Alcohol could do it, citrus fruit. Gummy candies are a biggie. I don't hear a lot of people talk about them, but I noticed that. I was starting to get acid reflux, and I realized it was my gummy vitamin. So I switched to a non-gummy vitamin. But gummy vitamins can cause that. And then, of course, fried foods. We also recommend that you elevate the bed at least 45 degrees at night so you could work a little bit with gravity. We also recommend you lose weight, eat smaller meals. Many of us will just scarf down our whole lunch while driving home, and it was only 3 minutes, and you took that down. That's a lot for the esophagus and stomach to handle, and that could really affect your sphincter. Quit laughing, but your sphincter's ability to close back up. So you need to eat slower meals. Chew your food. Make digestion easier on your stomach by chewing your food. Don't be swallowing big chunks. But also foods that help relieve acid reflux include oatmeal, banana, salad, aloe vera, parsley, celery, couscous, rice, lean turkey, and chicken. One thing that my doctor told me is he started to notice, even though I didn't feel like I had acid reflux, he started to see some erosions of my esophagus from some of the acid. And we figured out it was because I was drinking water before I went to bed. I had a kidney stone when I was 19. So I try to drink a lot of water. So before I go to sleep, I drink a lot of water. He said that could be also causing some of my acid reflux. So he told me to not drink a lot of water before I went to bed. So, medication, I don't want you fearful of medication. Remember, we don't want the stomach acid bombarding the esophagus, and we don't want you going into Barrett's esophagus and something precancerous. But, I always recommend have a medical provider see you, because sometimes that heartburn is actually your heart. People say, oh, it's not my heart, it's heartburn. It's from my esophagus. How do you know? It could feel the same. In fact, the average person having cardiac issues thinks originally their first thought was it was just heartburn. right? It's in the same area, your chest, the upper abdomen. You could also have cardiac issues that you feel in the upper abdomen too. But sometimes this heartburn not only could be your heart, it could be your pancreas. It could be a gallstone attack. It could be an ulcer. You could have a bleeding ulcer. So get yourself checked out and don't self-medicate. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. We've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles, along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme. The solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret. Powered by science.